First you must divide, then you multiply and subtract. Then you bring it down. The last thing that you do is check.
So today, we'll be talking about long division. Not hard division, long division. Let's look at a couple problems here. We'll do two problems with you. The first problem is going to be 2,618 divided by 42. Okay? First thing we want to do before we start solving the problem out with our standard algorithm is to do a quick estimate. I'm going to change my 42 to a 40 and then just look at that front end of the number, just the 40. And then I'm going to change my front end of my dividend to a compatible number with 4. I look at my front end, it's a 26. So that 26 I want to change to a compatible number with 4. Hope we all see that that number is going to be a 24. And we'll make that a 2400. Okay? Now we see that we have our compatible numbers, 24 and 4. And we can go ahead and cancel out a 0 and cancel out a 0 because we are dividing. And 24 divided by 4 is 6. Tack on a 0. Our estimate is 60. So when we go to set up our problem over here of 42 going into 2,618, we already know what our first digit should be, a 6, and where it should go in the tens place value. So I can go ahead and say 42 does not go into 2, and 42 does not go into 26. Because we've estimated before we began, we know our first digit should be a 6. Okay? Now, over here, we're going to decompose or break apart our 42. I need to think about this number, thinking about this number right here a little differently. I'm going to think about 42 as being 40 plus 2. Okay, because when we do our multiplication step, divide, multiply, subtract, and then bring it down, when we do our multiplication step, we can easily distribute that 6 to the 40 and then distribute the 6 to the 2. 6 times 40 is 240, and 6 times 2 is 12. And then we put these things together, our two partial products, we get 252. Do our subtraction, we have 9 and an 8, and now we'll just go back to the top and divide again. Obviously 42 goes into 98 twice, because 2 times 42 is 84. When we do our subtraction here, we're going to have 14 left over. Okay, so we've been talking in class about how to represent our remainder as a fraction. It'd be 14 left out of 42. Hopefully you see that these two numbers have a common factor. And when we try to simplify a fraction, we want these two numbers to be reduced or divided by the same common factor. You might not know this to look at it, but actually 14 is a factor of 42. If I divide by 14 and divide by 14, I actually get the answer of 1/3 being our simplest fraction. However, because they're both even, maybe we saw that we could at least divide them by 2 to begin. So that would be 7 over 21. And hopefully we see that 7 and 21 are still buddies, right? We can divide by 2, or excuse me, divide by 7 and divide by 7, and we get our answer of 1/3. Possibly you saw that 7 was a factor as well. We could have divided by 7 and divided by 7, and we would have had an answer that was getting closer to 1/3. But always try to put your fraction in its lowest terms by dividing by a common factor, the greatest common factor if you can. Okay, so our final answer is 62 and 1/3. Let's do another problem together, and this time it's going to be a little bit different because my divisor is going to be decomposed in a different way. All right, our next problem is going to be 2,732 divided by 28. Okay, and you see here, 28, we're going to go ahead and do our estimate again. 28 is going to change to a 30, and we're just going to look at that front end of the 3. Now, hopefully you see that 3 is buddies with 27 already, and we can just go ahead and leave that at a 2700. Okay. Now, if we go ahead and look at that front end, we can cancel 1 0 and cancel 1 0, and our estimate is about 90. Let's go ahead and do that problem out using our standard algorithm. 28 goes into 2,732. Again, we're going to be thinking about this number to change it a little bit. I'm going to change this 28, and look, we're going to change it to the same number we used in our estimate. Okay, so we're going to think about this number as being a 30, but it's not 30, it's 30 minus 2. Okay, we already know our first digit. Our first digit should be a 9, and it should be in the tens place value because 28 doesn't go into 2, and 28 doesn't go into 27. So we're going to put our 9 at the top, and then we're going to multiply out. 9 times 30 is 27 with a 0, 270. The minus sign comes next, and 9 times 2 is 18. If we go ahead and subtract 18 away from 270, we get 252. Do our subtraction here, we get 21, and we'll bring down our next number. Again, we're just looking at that front end of the number, just the 3 in the 30, and just the 21 now. How many times does 3 go into 21? Easy enough to answer. That goes in 7 times. 3 goes into 21 7 times. So let's go ahead and multiply out again. 7 times 30 is 210 minus 7 times 2, which is 14. If I go ahead and do that subtraction, again, that should be mental math, we get our 196. Okay? When we subtract this out, I could go ahead and do some unbundling and some borrowing here, but I'm at 196 and I'm trying to get to 212. I'm 4 away from 200 and then 12 more. What's 4 plus 12? 16. Okay, again, you're going to see our remainder of 16/28 is not in simplest form or lowest terms. So we're going to go ahead and divide that by a common factor. Divide by 4 and divide by 4, and we get our simplest form answer of 4/7. 97 and 4/7.